This diagram shows you what I've just described. So down the left-hand side of the diagram, you can see what we've just identified: alcohol, caffeine, refined sugar, trans fats, viruses, bowel congestion, the synthetic substances, cholesterol and estrogen, arriving at the front door of the liver, undergoing phase 1 change. And then there in the middle, they're slightly different. You can see that I've added a plus sign. So they've had something added to them. And then they need to go down the phase 2 pathways. But if that's not possible because phase 2 is all backed up or congested, then those substances start to be recycled back out into the blood. And that's precisely what happens for estrogen in both men and women, what can happen. And the way it works is this. In both a man and a woman's body, but I'll focus more on the woman's body just to bring this message home to you. When the estrogen arrives at the front door of the liver, it has to undergo its stage 1 change, and it's altered. So it's still estrogen, as you can see there on that slide, but it's had something added to it. And then it needs to go down the phase 2 pathways, and once it's done that, gone forever. That's a good thing. But what happens is it gets to this middle point and can't go any further until you start to recycle this ever so slightly changed form of estrogen. And it's this ever so slightly changed form of estrogen that's been found, pardon me, to be up to 400 times higher in women with estrogen-sensitive breast cancer. It's this ever so slightly changed form of estrogen that is so linked to some of the reproductive cancers. So again, taking care of this very precious organ can make an incredible difference to our quality of life and our ability to prevent disease later in life, now and later in life. So it's of such importance. When people say, before I get in and just talk to you about these sex hormones, I just want to mention to you, a lot of, as someone who is a nutrition expert, essentially, a lot of people ask me, well, surely I can get everything from my food. Surely my liver can just detox based on how I eat. Or surely I can just get enough antioxidants from my food. And I don't believe that's the case anymore. And there are a number of reasons. One of them is that if there aren't any nutrients in the soil, then the nutrients can't be in the food, because the way food gets its nutrients is from the soil in which it's grown. And so, unfortunately, the soil today is very different, even from 50 years ago, let alone 100 years ago. So that's one reason. Another reason is the pollutants that we're exposed to. Just from the number of cars on the road, for example, we're exposed to so much more pollution today than our grandparents ever were. And so for us, we can't necessarily control that exposure. So what you want to do is support the body to be able to detoxify these substances and get rid of them out of the body. And so you can understand now that supporting the digestive system and the liver in particular will enhance our body's ability to excrete these substances, because it's a different world now. And then the third reason I say to you, especially, that we need to eat real food so that it's lovely and nutrient dense, but also to take our nutritional supplements, the other reason that they're so important is because of stress. Because today so many people live on adrenaline. They're always in that fight or flight response because of way too much caffeine or the pressure that they perceive. And every time you generate adrenaline, one of those stress hormones, you use up magnesium, B vitamins and vitamin C. So if you're generating a lot of adrenaline in your life, your requirements for those nutrients is far greater than someone who's really chilled out even. So it is a different world that we're part of now, and I share that with you again to arm you with more information so that you're able to have accurate and more meaningful conversations with people to explain why our requirements for these nutrients is greater. But certainly one big reason, and a reason we can make such a difference in the lives of women. So men, hold on to your hats right now, because we're just going to talk about the menstrual cycle for about 3 minutes. So you'll be able to make a really big difference to the women that you love. And remember that half the world's population are women, obviously, so you can have even more meaningful conversations with them about all this stuff, if you want to. Maybe you don't want to. Anyway, I think it's really important that everybody understands it. So, and I'll bring this back to how the liver makes a big difference to sex hormone balance at the end of this description. So on the left-hand side of that image there is day 1 of the menstrual cycle. Day 14 is roughly ovulation, and day 28 is when a woman will menstruate again. And estrogen is the dominant sex hormone for the first half of her menstrual cycle. Estrogen's job reproductively is to lay the lining of the uterus down, and estrogen wants a menstruating female to get pregnant every single month of her life, whether that's on her agenda or not. And to make sure that that happens, or to certainly improve the chances of that happening, estrogen makes sure that a woman is quite fleshy. It wants to lay some extra body fat down because it worries that if you're a stick monster, that you won't be able to hold that conception. So estrogen's a fat storage hormone with your best interests at heart. The only place that we make progesterone from for the first half of our cycle is from our adrenal glands, which sit just on top of our kidneys. And progesterone's job reproductively is to hold the lining of the uterus in place. So estrogen lays it down, and then progesterone has to hold it there. But please listen to the other biological functions of progesterone. It's an anti-anxiety agent, it's an antidepressant, and it's a diuretic, so it allows your body to get rid of any excess fluid. Because when a woman is retaining fluid, she will quite often feel fleshy and puffy, very uncomfortable, and it translates in her psychology to "I feel fat and disgusting." And that can have a really big impact on her mood, on the way she interacts with the people she loves the most in the world, a big ripple effect. Intimacy can go out the window. So progesterone plays a really big role in whether women feel terrific or not. But as you understand now, your adrenal glands, that's also where you make your stress hormones from. You've got adrenaline communicating to every cell in your body that your life is literally in danger. And cortisol, your other stress hormone, it communicates to every cell in your body that there's no food left in the world. And it does that because historically, the only time that we made cortisol, the only long-term stress we had were floods, famines, and wars. And food is scarce in all of those scenarios. But today, chronic stress will happen, for example, when someone they're worried about their finances, so they clearly haven't found Usana yet. Or they're worried about the health of a loved one. That might be one reason that they're chronically stressed. Again, I haven't found Usana yet, I'm joking. But whatever it is that leads us to be chronically stressed is communicating to your body that there's no food left in the world, but food is abundant for us. We're very fortunate. But when that's happening, because your body is getting the message that your life's in danger and there's no food left in the world, the last thing it wants for a woman is for her to conceive. And so your body thinks it's doing you a great big favour by shutting off the adrenal production of progesterone. So park the fertility aspect of what I've just said and think about the other impacts that I mentioned a moment ago. So you've lost a hormone that helps stop a woman from feeling anxious, heading towards intensely sad moods, and that helps her managing her fluid balance properly. So that's just the first half of the cycle. Imagine the chaos of that inside her. That's only the first half. Second half of the cycle, once a woman is ovulated, progesterone goes very high. If there's a pregnancy, it goes very high, which is the red line climbing up there. If there's been no conception,